Hello and welcome back to Chengi's World. It's so good to have you back here with me on Storytime Saturday. Oh yes, oh yes. So today we are continuing with my story and I'm hopefully going to drop you off right here to the present day, and then we can do more fun stuff on Storytime Saturdays. Oh my gosh, whatever will I do? Ooh, I did promise that I might share a story or two about some of the guys that I've dated, not slept with. So yes, I will tell you, maybe those will become our kind of stories. I think some of them will be quite funny, but yeah, who knows, we'll see. Let me know what you want to know, but maybe we can talk about other things. Okay, maybe other stories, who knows, we'll work it out. So welcome to Chengi's World. If you're new to my channel, I am Chengi and you, my precious one, are my world. So make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment and hit the notification bell so you're informed every single time I upload a video on this channel, because you know it's on and it's popping. Okie dokie. So thank you so much. Join me on Instagram and Facebook at Chengi's World on both my handles. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, you know what to do. I'll leave the contacts in the description box for you, so you know where to get me if you want to contact me and work with me one-on-one. How exciting. I am so looking forward to today's video. So let's take it from the top to the very last drop. Oh yeah, okay. So, I believe we finished the last week's story, and I said I would tell you about the 7 years. So the 7 years happened. I left my marital home. I packed a suitcase, one for me and one for my son, and we left. And for the most part of my journey, without going into too much detail, I was homeless. And when I mean homeless, I mean I was going from, shelters to people's front rooms to, I didn't have my own front door. So no, I didn't sleep on the streets and scrape for food. God would never do that to me. He always promises, no matter what we go through, that when it comes to what we'll eat, where we will sleep and what we'll wear, those are just non-negotiables. So God always made sure that I never had to sleep on the streets. But I understood the vulnerability of not having your own front door. And it's something that I know many of us take for granted. We all take for granted having that front door key and being able to come into your space that belongs to you, whether it's an absolute mess or heaven or whatever it is. Even if you're walking into hell, it's still your own front door. When you have to share space with people that you hardly know, even if people are kind and generous to you, you always feel like you owe something. So I was rescued by kindness. A lot of people ask me, say, Chengi, how did you make it through? Not knowing from day to day is because of the kindness of people. I ended up in West Sussex because of a friend a childhood friend of mine that I contacted, and she came to get me because at that point I was genuinely out on the streets. I had nowhere to go. I'd just, been told to leave, and with no notice, and I just simply had nowhere to go. So I sort of and because I'd had no real friends during my marriage, I was sort of starting to reconnect to some people. And so I sort of pinged and said, look, I need a place to stay. This is the situation I found myself in. And her and hubby came to pick me up. Thank goodness I was working at the time and I had some money in the bank account. Not a lot, because I'd sort of spent quite a lot of it on a big expense. That had I known I was going to be sort of out on the streets, I probably wouldn't have spent the money. It was really just for a holiday for my son and I to go back to Zimbabwe to see my family. So I'd spent quite a lot of money on that. So I had left myself with very little, but enough for me to check into a hotel. So I had enough money to check into a hotel, but just about. And I remember checking into that hotel, and, they saw this woman coming with all of these bags and, stuff, I just, and I remember thinking to myself, will nobody help? I mean, there were all these men standing there and, people that work for the hotel, and nobody thought to bring a trolley. I was just out here in front of this hotel, and I won't tell you who they are, but one day I might, because it's quite a large chain. But they just looked at me like I was a homeless person, with all of these bags, outside this hotel, like tons and tons and tons of bags. I had to lug everything in and go to reception. And then I needed to, it was just a horrible experience. And they all looked at me like I was a nuisance. And that's one thing I learned, is when you are down and out, people treat you like dirt. We don't know how to honor people that are down, because we think they'll always be there. I didn't look like a hobo. I was very, very skinny. And I'm sure it was a very awkward looking sight, but there's something about when you're desperate and lost and broken that really shows you who people are, that really shows you who people are. And I thank God that in that season, I learned the skill that you don't realize you're learning, and that is to read people very quickly. Because when your life is uncertain, then you can't afford to not be able to read your environment and people around you very, very quickly. And so in an effort to survive, I picked up an acute sense of being able to read people. I was always able to do it, but it was heightened when you are in danger. You start to read micro expressions. You read people so much quicker because you need to move before they do. So I had the help of a friend who came to help and pick me up. And there's such love that God provides in a moment that will surprise you. And the people that will show you the love are people that you didn't expect. And so my friend came and picked me up from where I was, and took my luggage, and her husband took my stuff. And they said I could stay with them, and they were very kind. Not only them, but their family was extremely kind to me, and I cannot thank them enough. But as life would have it, we just, I eventually found my feet, and got myself together with their help. And, for that 1 year that they stood in, they really did. They picked up Josh and just really just rallied round. And I would never say a bad word about that family, no matter what, because they're absolute angels, and God does send angels into your life. They just treated me like family, and Joshua like one of their own. I have no bad words to say. My only prayer is that I will get to a point where I will really be able to remember them and do something so special for them, because sometimes words fail when people give from such an open and beautiful and kind heart, and they have never required anything in return. They've never stalked me, or they just were so gracious and so open. So without their help, I don't think I would have been able to stand on my feet in the same way. And if I had, it was going to be very, very hard. From that point, I think I'd probably say it was probably a year, 2 years in. And I really was not dating. I wasn't interested in dating men. They were just not on my radar. And I just wasn't interested. I just wanted to survive the emotional turmoil. I wanted to settle Josh in. I wanted to, the mummy duties and survival duties. I was now on one income, and having to provide a similar life to the one that Josh had. I was feeling guilty, because whenever you take a child away from his home, Josh had a beautiful home and a wonderful lifestyle, and I was dragging him through all of this. And he went to school and he was only little, and he started getting bullied by some of the kids in school. They would beat him up in the toilets and do things to him that was, that cannot be repeated on video. But, for kids so little, it all just seemed to come at the same time. So I had to manage all of the trauma, all of the stuff that was happening, and try to keep his life as stable as I could possibly keep it. And he, obviously being a child, was such a little blessing, was a little angel. For him, it was just a big old adventure, really. I think as he got older, he began to sort of realize maybe this is not the way things are supposed to be. But, definitely during that time, he was a little angel. So, I didn't really think of dating, but everyone, my family, my friends were like, Chengi, you are only 33, 34 at the time. You're so young. Don't sit down and say you'll never get married again, because that's really where I was. I was very much, I'll never get married again. I never ever want to get married again. All I want to do now is raise my son and just preserve my mental health. I just had no desire for a man in my life. Zero. Wasn't interested. But, with everyone sort of saying, oh, come on, you're young, come on, da, 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 da. And one of my friends took me out on a night out, and really I didn't want to go, but I was starting to feel better, and that's where I met this guy who I sort of had my sort of first relationship with. It didn't last very long because, quite frankly, I didn't want anything real with anyone. I really was in that place and space mentally where I wasn't looking for anything real. I didn't want anything real. It was just nice, though, to get some attention. It was nice to remember that I'm a woman again and that I'm attractive to men, which is something that I'd lost in myself. It was nice to be wanted. I enjoyed the interaction, but I really didn't want anybody, kind of close to me. I didn't want to get close to anyone, because I could just see every man doing to me what had happened. For me, every guy represented where I'd been and what I'd suffered in my marriage. So I just didn't want to know. But I did enjoy the whole dating process. I loved being taken out to dinner. I loved, because I never had that. I got, as you know, if you've been watching Storytime Saturday, I got married really quickly, and there wasn't really much of a romance to go with it. So it was nice to have men show up at my door with flowers, and to be taken to lovely restaurants, and to be taken to lovely places, to have a good conversation with a man, and to just sort of be dropped off at home and just feel like a lady and feel like a woman again. And I really loved that. I loved the kind of men that I was attracting. I was sort of in a self-discovery, and with that, I seemed to really attract wealthy, really, really wealthy men, or accomplished men. And at that time, that's what I would have said was high value men. But now, obviously, my definition is a lot broader than that. And I think I took that time out to really, because when I had been married, I married the first guy to ask. I wanted to, if I was ever going to get married again, to experience different types of guys. So I was very kind of open. I wasn't trying to settle down with anyone. So I sort of dated like blue collar guys, and I would just go on dates. I would let them take me out and, let them make me dinner. And, there was never there was no sex involved. I didn't sleep around, as some people think dating is. And I think I've already done a video on that. It was really just making these friendships and exploring these sort of romances. with different sorts of people, with different sorts of careers, because I really was looking for heart. I could have very much in the early days just been some billionaire's girlfriend, because that was on offer, probably end up being his wife. But I wasn't looking for that. I'd been married. I knew that you don't wake up next to somebody's money. Having money helps, but I wanted a soul. If I was going to get married again, I wanted somebody who was kin to my spirit. And I didn't find that in my sort of adventures. But I definitely learned that value in a man is not what he does for a living. Because in fact, the ones that showed a lot more care and thought were not always the rich guys. There was, to be fair, the carpenter, the retail guy. I was sort of making some money. I was working in Harrods at the time, so money wasn't really a major issue for me. I wasn't struggling. I could afford the life that I had to an extent. So I wasn't looking for somebody to finance that life. Now, in that time, some dates would be one date and I wouldn't want to see them again. Some would be 3 dates, some would be 2. But, there was always a stream to choose from. There was always, somebody to choose from. So really, I think it's only when I really sort of became settled a few years later that I met somebody who I think I've spoken to you about him. And I think he's the person that I really fell for and totally fell in love with at the time. I thought I fell in love with. But that's when I realized that I really, really wanted something real and something lasting. And that was probably 4 years into the journey. I did the whole sort of going clubbing with the girls at work and partying, but I didn't enjoy it. Gotta be fair. It's not something that I enjoy. I don't like crowded, loud places. It's not in my nature, so it's not something that I did a lot of. I tried to, but I just felt really silly. It wasn't really my thing, so I just sort of didn't do much of that. I didn't drink much because I wasn't much of a drinker in the first place, so I never really went off that kind of crazy, even though I was quite prepared to. I just didn't have it in me. I remember one night, at a New Year's Eve party, and there was a guy there who really, I think, was really trying to, get my attention. And he kept bringing me drinks. And it's so funny because I laugh about it to this day, that I just wouldn't get drunk. And which is really odd because I'm not a drinker, but I just wouldn't get drunk. I was just so sober. I think, I don't know what happened, but I just, no matter how much I drank, I just stayed really sober. It was really crazy. But I always say that was the hand of God in my life throughout my journey. It's always somehow keeping me from going off the rails. I was always internally controlled. So after I met the gentleman that I fell for and it didn't work, that was a 2-year relationship. So that took me into 5 years of sort of being single. And then after that, I remember being so brokenhearted. And it's funny, when your heart is broken, you just know where to run to. It doesn't matter, I always think that God uses heartbreak and pain to really crystallize the things that matter and the people that matter. And for me, and in my instance, it was really him. I just ran to him. I remember one night in the middle of heartache and pain, because I had never really quite experienced this sort of narcissistic kind of type of player. And really, looking back, we weren't in a relationship. I was completely ignorant to the things that I teach now. but I so thank God for him, because it's what made me have to research and learn and grow and really refine and understand my world better, and be able to help the women that I've been able to help. But I remember one night, I was in my bed and the Holy Spirit just woke me up. I just woke up and I started to pray, and I started to speak in tongues and started to pray. And I did that for weeks and weeks. And it was almost like God reviving my soul, because I really just, I think, hit rock bottom. And I remember thinking, right, I need to go to church. And that was the beginning of me sort of coming back to the Lord. I had felt really let down by the church before, so I really didn't want to get involved. I sort of came and sat in the back of the church and observed and cried. I cried for weeks. I just sat in the back of the church and cried. And cried and cried and cried and cried and cried, really. I think it was just, I felt like I was being washed and cleansed and purified again. And it was just beautiful, and they just let me cry. No one came to stop me. No one came to hug me. No one came to do anything. They just let me sit in the back and cry. And I knew that it was exactly where God wanted me to be, because I just needed to cry it out. I had spent the last 5 years just surviving and hurting and coping and having my heart broken, and having, this guy take absolute advantage of me and turn me into an absolute imbecile. I did everything pathetic that you can imagine. But like I said, he was my best tutor. And I was just really done, and God just sort of opened his arms and said, you can come home now. I was like the prodigal son, I was like, you know what, I'm better off in the church with a bunch of hypocrites. As far as I was concerned, that's what I called the people in the church. I'd rather be back there with a bunch of hypocrites than be out here in the wild, not knowing how to navigate my way around a non-system. At least in the church, if I just sat back and allowed myself to hear and receive God's word from where I am and not get myself involved with people, then, I craved a world I understood. And whether I liked it or not, I understood the church better than I understood being out here in the world. So it was my comeback, and I sat and cried a lot. I think in that 5th year, all I did was cry. All I did was cry and leave that church and go to another church and cry. I just wept. I was like this leaking valve, but it was God's healing and baptism in the new. And from there began a real desire to rediscover my walk with God and my relationship with God. I missed him so much. I was praying and I was reading the word, but I really missed him, because it's never been a religion for me. God has never been a religion for me. I struggle sometimes to tick the box that says Christian, because, it's not these others. And if you put other, what is that? Then you're going to have to explain, because it's always been about relationship for me. He's always been my best friend. And I missed my friend. Sometimes when you're talking to your friend and you're not talking, but you're talking. It was kind of like that. I felt like he was this faithful friend who was just like, okay, you don't want to love me the way you used to, but I'm going to still be here. And finally, I was like, I really do love you, and I really want to do what's right. I really want to do what makes you happy too. You've been so good to me. You've looked after me, protected me, and I just want us to be friends again. I want us to be in love again. I want us to share hearts again. So I really did miss Jesus. So it was so good. So I decided that after the whole episode with this guy, that I was gonna just really rededicate my life to him. It wasn't that sort of kind of spiritual, but it was kind of, okay, I'm gonna become celibate. I'm gonna stop everything that I was doing. I'm gonna cut down the drinking to 0 if I can. I didn't drink a lot, but it was just like, okay, just cut out drinking, cut out sex, cut out everything and just really focus on healing. And with that, forgiveness of people that had hurt me, that I needed to forgive. Forgiveness of myself. And that led me to a point where I had healed and was healing so well, but had all of this wisdom, knowledge, information, understanding. It's like God just deposited. It took all of what I had been through from the time my suffering began, not even in those 7 years, but way before that. He took everything and made sense of it, and he kind of, like a Rubik's Cube, and he put it together, and then he deposited it on the inside of me, and all of a sudden everything started to make sense. And then I thought to myself, what if I can help somebody like me navigate this territory? What if I can help some other woman not have to go through what I've been through? What if I can rescue somebody mid-flow? What if I can reach some woman at some point in her journey and help her in a way that I couldn't find the help, in a way that resonates with her? I had been on YouTube, I'd listened to some of the things, but some of them were too worldly or too religious, or I couldn't find that balance, that wisdom, that grace. I couldn't find it. So I thought, what if I can do that for somebody? And that was my heart. And what if I can do something that will, for my nieces, make them wiser and smarter? What if I can save some young girl? What if I can prevent some woman who's going through divorce, who doesn't know that she can come out on the other side? What if I can reach somebody? And that's when I started Chengi's World. That's when I didn't really know that I was going to go in the direction of relationships. That was as a surprise to me, but obviously looking back, it was a natural thing for me to do. But it was really, I wanted to just help somebody. There was no ambition in it. There was no brand in it. There was no 1,000,000 followers in it. There was no ambition. There was nothing behind it. It was just love. I wanted to say something, record a video for somebody that would change their lives. And what evolved from it was far bigger than me. And there were times when I gave up because I felt like no one wanted to hear what I had to say, because I had like 10 views and 2 subscribers for like 6 months. It's like, well, nobody cares what you think. I had like 10 videos. So I did want to give up because I thought maybe no one cares what I think, or maybe I was just making it up in my head until, I found the church that I went to, and my pastor prophesied and said, God wants you online. And then after that, I remember sort of checking my inbox and all these emails from all these amazing women thanking me and thanking me for the work that I'm doing and how my videos have helped, and they were asking and requesting other videos, and I didn't even know any of this had happened. And I looked at my channel and I had 250 subscribers, and I was thinking, where did they come from? And from then I really began to take myself seriously, because I then knew for sure that I wasn't possibly helping somebody. I knew for sure that I was helping somebody. And anybody who knows me is, I will do anything if it helps somebody. I will do anything that will make me money if it helps somebody. So money will never be the chief motivator. I needed to pay the bills. I need to feed my kid. I need to live like everybody else has to. And unfortunately, I can't trade, wisdom for groceries. But it's never the chief motivator. I always think to myself, okay, I can make money, but who am I helping? Who am I helping? So Chengi's World was just supposed to be this help that has now evolved into a ministry, evolved into a business, where now I'm able to coach women one-on-one and really help change their lives on a more intimate, personal basis. So it evolved to what it is now, into this amazing brand that I'm proud of, that I know is world-class, and is going to change even more lives. So my dream is to reach the world, to reach my tribe, wherever they are. I am not called to everyone. No one is. I have a people that I am called to, and my desire and my heart is to reach every single one of them on this platform. And that's where you guys come in, because you are those people. And with your help, sharing, commenting, liking, interacting with these videos and sending them out to your friends and family, we get this message of hope, and this message of restoration, and this message of lost and found out there to so many other women, and we give hope. So, this is it. This is my story. This is where I am now. So here I am, serving you with such joy and such pleasure and having fun doing it. So thank you so much for watching. We will talk some more. I have no idea what Storytime Saturday is going to be about, but if you want to leave some suggestions, make sure you do. Otherwise, I will see you soon. Take care of you. Love you lots.